see you. I'm glad you're here. Did everybody make an account with H5P? Okay, awesome. So it's going to be a real challenge for me because I have to stay in front of this black screen, and I'm somebody who likes to wander, okay? But let me first start out by giving you a short story of when I first came here to Keystone. Super tired, flew here, got up at 4:30 Eastern time in Charlotte, and got in my bed. We had a Murphy bed in the studio, right? And I'm not thinking, and I get in the bed. I'm like, what kind of bed is this? The bed was slanted. And I'm like, what is this? I'm going to roll down like a sack of potatoes. And I'm sitting there and I'm laying there trying to fall asleep. And then all of a sudden I realize the bar at the bottom are the feet. So I fixed it, and I was good. I blame it on the altitude, okay? But what we're going to do is, Charlotte has over 150,000 students, and we're working on how do we increase engagement, how do we increase usage of Canvas in such a large, diverse district. So I happened to go to, we had a textbook adoption with social studies, and social studies went to all these different companies. None of them had an online interactive option for kids when it came to social studies, and it just irked me so badly. So what I did was I talked to the social studies department, and I said, hey, I want to start building Canvas courses using your inquiry pacing guides. Because if private sector vendors don't have this, then we need to start moving forward and building stuff and giving teachers the seed. And so they said, yeah. So one of the things when you work in central office, so in my position, an instructional technology specialist, I have over 30 schools. And so when you're out of the classroom, sometimes you forget stuff, right? So this was also a selfish way for me to get back into the technical piece. And so how do you make a Canvas page interactive for students? And so I struggled with this, and a lot of the options out there were really expensive, okay? And then I found H5P, and it is free, and I love free, okay? So one of the things, we're gonna make some activities using H5P, but the thing I wanted to talk about, this is all what we're doing today, so don't worry about it, is talking about when I was designing, going back to Richard Mayer and his 12 principles of multimedia learning. So basically, a lot of the things he talks about is that less is more, okay? And to bring the human element into a page. So you are using a voiceover. You are keeping text and pictures close together. You are not putting 50 million words on a page, things like that. I try to keep in mind. And there are tons of activities that H5P uses, and we're going to do more than H5P, but that go along with his principles. So first thing that we're going to make, the activity is called, and now, y'all, I was taught with whole language. And my mom's German, so she taught me phonics through German phonics, English through German phonics. So I'm not good at saying big words. So image juxtaposition, okay? And basically what that is, so let me show it to you, is on a Canvas page, you can create, thinking of less is more, a lot of our kids in our district may not have the opportunity to have a lot of background knowledge. And Richard Mayer speaks to that. You gotta make sure you're front loading, that you're giving kids that background that they need. So this is a fantastic, thinking at the elementary school level, if you take a look, a lot of kids see that green in the terrain on a map, but they can't spatialize or visualize it, right? And that is why this activity in H5P that we're gonna make here in a minute is awesome, because it helps kids visualize and see content. So here's what it looks like on a map, physical map of Keystone area. Here's what it looks like actually in person, helping front load and give kids that visualization that they need. All right, so let's make one. So the first thing I need you to do when you're working in H5P, and when you go to the Canvas Glam, I'm going to show you that at the end of my presentation, it has step-by-step everything of all this stuff, okay? So don't worry about that. But what I want you to do in H5P is I want you to click on My Account. And then if you take a look, it says Create New Content. And you know, I always tell my teachers that, you know, us tech people go fast, so you won't offend me if you say repeat those steps. So you're going to go to My Account on H5P, and then you'll click on Create New Content. So I'm going to give you a minute to get there. While you're getting there, I just want to show you some examples of what H5P offers. So there's tons of different options. So there's the image juxtaposition. There are accordions, which are awesome. They have board games you can make. They have dialogue cards. There's just tons of different activities that you can embed in a Canvas page that the kids can interact. They don't have to navigate somewhere else. These are things that are all very informal. So H5P is working for them, for teachers to save their responses to certain questions and answers, but they are like open source, so it's not like they're not charging anybody, so they're working on it. So you know how that goes, right? But just memory games, mark your words, tons of awesome activities. So is everybody there? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to click on Create New Content. And the first part, I'm going to type in my title, which is going to be Physical Map. Or let's just say Map. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the image juxtaposition because that's the one I actually want to do. Now, when you're working with this, you're going to notice that my title up at the top is the activity title. Then it says title again, where it says here you can add an optional title. That's where if I'm using pictures like copyright, that kind of stuff, that's usually where I put it so that I give credit where credit's due. But you don't have to necessarily use it for that. You could also use it for like before and after. That way you are being, just like Richard Mayer said, clear, concise, has to do with the actual images below. So that part, again, that title right there, you can put, I'll just do like credit. Now, the first thing you'll do is you'll have to have two images. What images do you want to go back and forth? So you're going to click Add, and then you are going to go ahead and pick your first image. So I always save stuff to the desktop, and so we're going to get a quick image real quick. Close, not necessarily, but if you really want the impact, you'll definitely want to. So, sorry, I forgot to put my other one on there. All right. Okay, that is not what we need right now. All right, for the sake of sakes, we'll just do this one. All right. So now all I'm going to do is click on that first one, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click, let's say, the actual, what you see. And then where it says label for first image, So if you take a look at the image, there's like this, the remove file box. That's where the text is going to go. So again, thinking about text and images and Mayer's principles, just keep in mind that keep it short, concise, and to the point. So here I'm just going to put maybe like in person, Keystone. Below, I'm going to pick my second picture. So this is pretty simple. I've completed this PD with other teachers, and they find after they get the hang of it, they have no issues with it, and they enjoy it a lot. They like the interactivity with it. So here I'm just going to say Keystone Map. Now you can make it so that it's vertical rather than horizontal. And then below, you want to keep all these boxes down here checked. So boxes below, keep them checked because otherwise you can't see the embed code. So all I have to do is click Save. And now I'm going to see my product. Okay? Now, when I go down here to the bottom, this is where I'm going to pick up that embed code. It's right there in the bottom. What is that? Left. Thank you. All right. And I'm going to click embed, and then I'm just going to copy the iframe, all the HTML. So Command or Control C. And then I'm going to go into my actual Canvas course. And at this point, I'm just going to show you where I put it in. So if you take a look right here, so if I get right here, what I'm going to do is,
once you go,
I am going into the HTML editor of my blank page, and I'm going to paste that embed code in there, and then I'll see my activity. Yeah. So the question was, where are they storing the images? It's all stored H5P. And so once I get into that embed code, I paste it in there. And then what I tend to do, especially if I'm working with children like elementary school courses, is I use the Canvas feature of the voiceover to give brief directions of what they need to do, and then do a voiceover of me talking over the directions. That way they get both the visual and the voice of what they're supposed to actually do with the content. So when I say the voiceover, I'm talking about the record feature, where you can record your voice and you can even make a video. So any questions about that one? How much time do I got? 4. Okay, well, how many minutes is that? Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to go to the next one. The next one I want you to help create are accordions, okay? Now, I have a lot of people who will balk at me and say, accordions, Becca, they're kind of like boring. But I enjoy accordions because they give students really quick, easy feedback. They're super simple. And so when I say accordion, in this video, if you take a look, all it's going to do is it's just like a module where they click on it, it drops down content.
H5P
so
and then embed it
if
into
I click
Canvas.
on where it says AC right there, the content will drop down, and then you'll be able to get the feedback. So ways that you could use this: vocabulary review, major concept review, super simple, quick, easy stuff where I'm always someone who believes in all cognitive theory. And I think there's a place for behavioral-based practice. And so in this instance right here, I think it's a great practice for kids to get feedback. And then, they're starting to really think about their own reflection, their metacognition, and increase their mastery. So let me show you the accordion.
What's H5P's uptime?
Uh,
All our stuff is hosted, you go down, we go down.
right. So I've never had an issue. So as of today, I also like to say that too. As of today, we have no issues. Okay. I started making the courses this spring, and every time I've used them, I've had some classes. They haven't officially been rolled out yet, but I've had tester classes in different grades, and nobody's ever had an issue.
So I was just in a session about accessibility. How does this relate to screen readers?
So that is where you would probably, I can't 100% answer that question. I'm just going to be honest. But you may be possible to put some type of tag in the HTML. Okay. All right, so here's AC. So this summer, my AC went out. I have to replace the whole system. Okay, so hashtag not salty, all right? And then also a year ago, less than a year ago, we had to replace our water heater. So that's like $3,000 later. So notice, really simple, you could go ahead and you can put a concept, it drops down, drops down. So if you go ahead to make a new item, you go back to my account, and we can quickly make an accordion together. Then go to create new content. And again, notice how it looks very similar to the image that we just created. So you're just going to title it. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to pick accordion. And this one is kind of almost too easy that it's hard. So this first part right here, it says title. That's the top large text that you want. So in my example, I wrote AC. That's where you're going to put, what do you want it to say when it's closed, up at the top? And then below there is where I typed in hashtag not salty. Okay, so I'm just going to put that underneath where it says text. So what do you want it to say when it drops down? The other part about this, it's so easy that it's hard, is if you take a look, it says add panel. So a lot of teachers, when I'm working with them, they get really confused. They're like, what does that mean? How do I get another one? So every time you want another drop down, you're just going to click add panel. And then do the exact same thing. So in this instance, it would be water heater. The second portion right there is going to be 3K later. Okay? And once you're finished, again, like I said, just like the image, you're going to keep all the items below, and then you're going to click Save. Yeah?
I'm not sure if you know this, but is it possible to add hyperlinks then to this accordion? So like drop down, and you can add hyperlink right there, and it'll transfer them? Like another Canvas page.
Right. Good question. Yeah, there is a text editor. I've never actually put a hyperlink in it, so let's take a look. Yeah. Yeah, I see it. It's right here. I like to use it for either review or if there's major concepts that they need to reflect on prior to, just to get them to think about what they're actually going to learn about or review what they learned about. I also used the same type of feature. Previously, Canvas offered tabs. They doesn't seem like they do anymore, but the same type of thing where I'm a person where if I'm learning, I want to see all my notes in one page. And so this right here is kind of like a great way to take main concepts and keep it on one page for the student to review, reflect, or think about what they're about to learn. That way they're not having to navigate to 50 million other pages, especially if you want just short, small chunks of information for the student. Yeah? A drop down within a drop down. I've never tried it. I don't think so. But thinking to that, you could possibly do something like that in Sway. You could. Has anybody used Sway before? Okay, so we got some Sway folk. So you could possibly do that in Sway. Yeah.
I noticed it saved your one that you already created.
Yeah.
If you go back in and edit it, do you need to take the embed code and redo it, or does it automatically update in Canvas?
It'll automatically update. Yeah. Okay, so that's accordions. Next thing I want to talk about, any other questions about H5P? Yeah.
Where's it? So do you have some sort of dashboard of all the stuff you've created in case you have to widen something out and go everything again?
Right, so when you clicked on my account and it said create new content, all the things you'll see at the bottom will say view all. You click on view all and it'll be everything you've ever made.
Put those in folders, categorize them in?
No. All right, so we're going to move on a little bit. I talked about my AC, so I wasn't salty about it, but my dog was. So she took this picture, and I brought out the fan, and she was just not happy, okay? So she was salty about my AC. So another thing that I use frequently is Sway. Sway is not free. It is a Microsoft product. That's why I'm really not going to demo it, because it's not free. But if you have Microsoft at your organization, you can use it. And so I just use it in different ways. This was for a course where the children were learning about what is a rule. And so it just gives short, simple examples, very colorful to try and engage them a little bit more. And this was just a way to just deliver content that was a little bit more engaging than just writing it down on the page and it being blank. So there's also other things that you can do in Sway. There are options where you can get multiple images on one page, lots of different stuff that you can do there. Here, the other place I get a lot of ideas on what to do interactivity. Does everybody watch the fast track guides? Canvas? Cool. All right, so the fast track guides are made by Canvas. And it's not letting me click on the link. So if you take a look right here, there's a list of different items, and this is all linked, so you'll have access to it, where it just gives you different ideas of how to implement Canvas in unique ways. And I get a lot of ideas based off of that make pages and different activities more interactive. This right here, where I'd love you to go if you're not there already, is bit.ly. It's all uppercase, Canvas Glam. And in Canvas Glam, I have, so bit.ly, all capitals, Canvas Glam. So as you can see, I teach this to our teachers. And so it just has all the different information that we've gone already over today. And it also has all the tutorials. Here's the design principles we talked about earlier. And then it also gives more examples of what H5P can do. So like in this example, the direction is you have to click on the street. So if the child clicks on the lake, it gives them the feedback that this is a lake. On maps, water is usually blue. Here's another example where you have to just choose the correct statement on the page. Those are wrong. So again, these are just instant feedback for kids. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. The other thing, there are some other items that you can add to pages, like you'll notice here, and I have step-by-step directions on how to do it in the Canvas Glam. Notice how I have like a next page button. I want it to look very consistent with the other look of Canvas. You can make that really easy in HTML, and the directions are at the end of this course of how to do that. You can change the button colors. I just chose red because it matches with our school logo, or our district logo color scheme. So let me just show you some other things besides Sway and H5P. Again, these are all things that that way you have all the resources of what we did today. If you email me, I'm happy to just email you the whole common cartridge. So here was the example I was talking about, another thing that Sway can do. So notice, again, simple images. You can see the text right next to it, again, going along with those design principles. So here are some other ones, if you want to do the flashy GIFs. Some new ones that I haven't really played around with are the ones, the Play Buzz, Brackify, and Quizzer. So again, for Play Buzz, it's pretty, I haven't used it a ton, but different ways that you can make different quizzes and stuff, especially just to engage kids and get them motivated into the content that you're delivering. And then Brackify is awesome for those who love, like March Madness and stuff like that. You can make some pretty cool brackets. And then Quizzer. And again, most of these are free or free to an extent, so you just use them as accordingly. Here at the bottom, you'll see all the printable directions in regards to tabs, accordions. My thing got messed up. And you'll also see the style guide on how to make those buttons here at the bottom. So, are there any other questions?
Can we put your email back on the screen, please?
Sure.
We're so demanding.
It's quite all right. But yes, I'm happy to help. And if you learn something cool, ways to make your course more interactive, please feel free to get in contact with me. I'd love to know. And I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of the conference.